Okay everybody, our next task is going to be pretty simple. What we're going to do is fire bullets at a wall until it gets knocked down. So we've got three cones and they're thrusters. If you select them you can see that. They've been set to about a 1200 strength on the thrusters. They've also got a gyro, which is a joint that keeps them always aimed in a certain direction. You can change that direction, but in this particular case I just wanted them to fly horizontally. I didn't want them to go nose down when they hit. And then over here on our wall we have a fixed joint, which is telling it not to get knocked down until it gets hit with a certain level of force. So the thrusters are hitting it at 1200 apiece. If we play, let's see what happens. The first one doesn't knock it down, but the second one does. Boom. Let's try kicking that up a notch and let's see if we take it, let's say we take it to 2500, which would require, the first one's going to hit it with 12, the second one hits it with another 1200, that'd bring it up to 24, and then the third one should take it over 25, and let's see if that works for us. 1, 2, well, it did look like the second one did the job, so we'll accept that. The numbers in this thing are not always what you expect, and especially with this one I think you're going to have to do a little trial and error before you really get it to do exactly what you want. Mostly just in terms of what kind of thrust you're hitting it with, and then how much braking force you've told it to be subjected to. So let's get back to nothing and start with putting in some cones. Boom, boom, boom. So I'm going to make a kind of a random cone here. That's going to be one of my rockets. I'm going to rotate that cone so that it's aimed sideways where the wall will be. And I'm going to move it up. The thruster strength on this here, let's go ahead and check it. Let's try it about at 1200. And then if you hit fire, what's going to happen? Of course, if it goes forward and it slides, but it slides on its nose, it falls flat, so we don't want that to happen. We're going to make 3 of these. Now I said you couldn't copy them, and that's true. Copying the object doesn't cause a problem though. Even if the object has been told to be a thruster, that's fine, it's okay with that. It's when you get into having a joint that's been applied to another object and you want them to want to copy that joint, that's when it gets a little finicky there. So now the joint I'm going to use here is the gyro. Let's aim that straight up so that the thing stays in that direction. And you'll see the settings here. That's your X, Y, and Z axis. You can do a lot of strange stuff with this. I haven't experimented with it that much. Right now we're just going to tell it, hey, look, you apply to this. And then I'll go ahead and put gyros on the other ones so that they stay straight up and down. So now you can see what you get. The cones are affected by gravity. They do fall, but they stay aimed sideways. That's what we want. Here's our wall to be knocked down. Oops. Try that again. Put in a box. Looks like it's still trying to put in a box over here. Let's get rid of that. Okay, so now there's the box that we're going to run into. And of course by default it does, the cones do eventually get over there and run into it and knock it over. Now let's use the fixed joint. Now the fixed joint is going to ask you a bunch of meaningless questions. It says go ahead, put that on, great. Then it says click for second point. Well, okay, I'll do it, not that it makes any difference. Then it says click for a third point, and then it says click for a second point. And now I've gone and accidentally put in a new fixed joint. I only needed one of them. Really just, because this thing just holds the object in three-dimensional space, it doesn't need to have all the additional points. Just get the thing put in there, and then hit escape to clear it. And then we'll tell it, you apply to that wall there. Now, the cones are coming across the floor and they run into it and nothing happens. And that's because by default, when you start out, that motor there, not motor, but the fixed joint, has a braking force of 0. So let's kick that up to a little bit higher there. And see what happens when the cones hit it. So the first one doesn't knock it over, but the second one does, and the third hits too. That's what I'd like yours to do. Set yours up so that the first one doesn't give it enough force to knock it down, but that the second one does.